Okay, hello, welcome. My name is Vince Wallace, and this is my grandfather, Algert Wallace. He goes by Babe. And Babe was a shipmate on the USS Steinacre. And he wasn't able to make it to the reunion this year, but I told him that if he wasn't going to that, he had to make a video and tell all the shipmates a little bit about his time in the Navy. He says he doesn't remember that much, but we're going to just get as much of it as we can and see how that goes. So let's start off. Babe, how old are you now?
87.
He's 87. He just turned 87. And Babe, do you still have a job?
Yeah. He's still working.
He's still working. And tell him about what you do for work right now.
I deliver auto parts.
He delivers auto parts. He's 87 years old. And how many days a week do you work?
4.
4 days a week. Pretty impressive for 87, I think. All right. So, Babe, when were you on the USS Steinacre?
I think it was 1946.
46.
Yeah.
Okay. And now, how did you join? You said you weren't drafted.
No, I joined the Navy.
You joined the Navy. Where did you do that at?
I did that in Pittsburgh, but I got on the Steinacre in Newport, Rhode Island.
Now, there were some unusual circumstances surrounding how you got on the Steinacre as opposed to some other ship. Could you tell us that story?
Oh. When I got enlisted, and we went to Sampson, New York, and they took us in this room, and they was assigning us to where to go to sleep, and they said, anybody have any kind of problems? And I put up my hand, and I said, I did. So the guy took me aside, and he says, what's your problem? I said, I was homesick. So he said, go over there in the other room. And this was in the evening, and it was 9 o'clock at night or something, and I went upstairs to this room, and that's where we were supposed to sleep. But I couldn't sleep all night because the guys were walking around talking to themselves, and it was like a Section 8, and I couldn't sleep at night because these guys walking around and talking to themselves. And the next morning, I told the head man, I said, you know, there's all loonies up there. I'm just homesick. I went out of there.
And so that's how you got. They sent you back to the Navy, like into the regular.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then so that got you separated from all the people from Pittsburgh.
Right.
Okay.
I got tied up with a gang from Massachusetts.
And so what about them? You remember anything about those guys?
No, they were all from South Boston. I had one. I remember one buddy. His name was Benny Lee, and he lived in Salem. And a couple of times we went up to his house when we was in Newport. So.
Okay. Now, when you were on the Steinacre, you remember the first time you walked up to the ship?
Yeah.
Tell us about that. What was it like walking up to the USS Steinacre for the first time?
It was a miserable, cold night. It was raining, and I had to carry that sea bag, and it was in Newport. And I had to carry that big old sea bag. It was bigger than me.
Wow, and you're a little guy, Dave.
Yeah.
Yeah. So then you got on the ship, and then what was your training like, your basic training? That was in Sampson, New York?
Yeah, it was in Sampson.
What did you do? What kind of stuff did you have to like learn how to sail or swim or?
Yeah, it was drill, you know, marching drill, and then going out on the lake and finding how deep the water was. I remember they used to throw a rope over the side and they'd say by the mark 10 or something. I don't know what that meant, but I guess that was, that was how deep the water was.
How deep the water was.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So you did your training. You went to Sampson, and then you went to Rhode Island and carried the sea bag up in the miserable rain.
Yeah.
And then you got on the ship, and then what happened when you were out at sea? What kind of stuff did you do?
We was what they call the swabbies. They were like the laborers, you know, the ship. Our job was to keep it clean. You know.
Yeah.
And when we get into port, we'd end up chipping paint and painting the chip spots and just basically keeping the place loading. When you went into, we were like the laborers. When you went into port, you had to load supplies. You know, who did it? It was the swabbies. Yeah.
And what about where did the ship sail? Where did you go?
Down, always in Atlantic, behind the aircraft. We was part of every aircraft carrier had destroyers that followed it to pick up the planes. If a guy went over the side, the aircraft carrier wouldn't stop. It was the destroyers. They had one in front and one on each side to follow the ship. And that was their job to pick up the pilot.
Did you ever pick up a pilot? Did you ever reach down and
No,
pull him up?
no, we picked one guy up. And, you don't pick him up like that.
No.
You lower a boat.
And they get him.
They
Okay.
get him. Then they bring him on to the ship, and then what you do is you get alongside the aircraft carrier, and they end up. This is back in the 50s now.
40s.
40s, and you toss a line from the carrier would toss a rope. It would come alongside the carrier, and the carrier would toss a rope. Would get the rope, and they'd put a bucket on it, and then the pilot would get in the bucket. And
They'd pull him up. That's after you got him off the water.
Yeah.
Okay, so
Yeah.
then you get him off the water, then you drive over to the carrier,
Alongside it.
and then they'd rope him up. Okay,
Yeah.
and that's how they got him back on the boat.
Yeah.
Now, you said you went down to Guantanamo Bay. Is that true?
Yeah.
Yeah. What was it like down there?
I don't remember that much about
So
it.
he doesn't remember that much about Guantanamo Bay.
No.
When I was at the Steinecker reunion last year, I remember saying a lot of the other shipmates didn't remember much about it either. So you have something in common with them, man.
Yeah,
There you go.
Cuba wasn't like it is today, you know. It was just
Just a shipyard.
it's just a place for the ship to, come in port.
Did you go into the port at all, like into Cuba? Because that was before the
Castro.
Did
yeah.
you go and you look around at Cuba at all?
No, I don't think I ever did.
No.
No. Yeah.
Okay. Let me think of a couple more
We
questions.
didn't stay that long. We would
No?
just turn around and go back.
Okay. Now, what else? Anything else happened on the ship that you can remember? Any kind of things that stick out from when you were sailing just out at sea?
Yeah, there on the ship, the main man on the ship is Chief Boatswain's name.
You remember his name?
I don't remember his name, but he was built like a wrestler.
Yeah.
And he was tough. And he's like the main man on the ship, other than the officers. This guy, Chief Boatswain mate, just keep the...
So what was the title on Chief what?
Boatswain mate.
Chief Boatsman mate.
Yeah.
Okay.
And one day, this one kid threw a cigarette on the deck. And I forget where we were. We were at sea somewhere, and he threw it, instead of throwing it over the side, he just threw it on the deck.
Yeah. Put it out.
And the boatswain mate said to the kid, "Pick up that cigarette." And we went down to pick it up, and the boatswain mate booted him in the ass. says, you got that whole ocean.
That's a pretty good story. Now, what about your accommodations? Did you still have a really little bunk?
No,
Because I remember that's one thing you had. A lot of people tell about the Navy.
yeah, there's not much room. You're sleeping underwater.
Yeah.
At the bottom of the boat. You had a hole to get down. They had steps going down to the bottom of the ship. That's where you slept, on the bottom of the ship. Yeah.
And what about the mess hall? You were telling me something about how you had to eat in the mess hall and you had to eat all your food. And
oh yeah.
tell us about that.
They had a sign at the door. There was a sign up the door that says, "Take what you could eat only." You know. And if the guy was standing there, if you'd come, you know, you'd have to clean the plate off, and if you had food on it,
He'd tell you to go back. He'd point.
go back and get it finished.
Finish up, yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
Okay.
that's right. Take only what you can eat. You
Yeah.
know.
Wow.
Yeah.
So any other stories about when you were out at sea? So you went up from like New England, where like Rhode Island and Boston,
Down,
Massachusetts, and
down to.
you just sailed up and down the coast.
Yeah, we were actually when they built a new carrier or something, we would escort it on. They had a trial run, you know, shakedown they called it. You know, to go out and go down to Cuba and then come back. And we would follow
the carriers that had tested itself out.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. You got one of the guys, the pilots would, you know, be landing off and on it and practicing landing and that. And, yeah.
So you went in 1945, 46, somewhere in there. And how long were you in?
I was in, I think, almost 2 years.
Okay.
Yeah, a little bit of 2 years.
And then you got out.
Yeah.
You know, anything else?
I told them if that let me out, I'd walk home. Yeah, one time it was my brothers were my brothers were home, and I was in Newport, Rhode Island, and they wouldn't give me any leave.
Mm-hmm.
So I had the weekend off, and I was going to bum.
All right, Pittsburgh from New York.
Pittsburgh from New York, from Providence, from Newport to Pittsburgh. I was going to try to bum a ride and get home, see my brothers. I never did though.
Never did. Well, that's a good segue because we have some pictures. Babe, how many brothers did you have?
4.
You had 4 brothers, and here they all are here. This right here, this is you, right?
Right.
Get a good shot of that. Nice. This is Babe, and you're how old here? 18?
I'm 18.
18 years old. Here's his Navy outfit. Is that you too, or is that somebody?
That's my graduation.
That's his graduation. Tell him about that coat, babe.
I didn't have a suit.
You didn't have a suit.
So this friend of mine, Al Tomoski, he had a suit with that light blue coat on. So they only took pictures of the thing. So he took this picture, and then we went on. He gave me his coat.
He gave you his coat. And that's somebody a borrowed coat in that suit. All right, now tell us about these guys up here. Who are these guys? Obviously, that's you.
No,
that's not you. That's you, and that's who are these? Who's everybody?
This is my brother. They called him Piney.
Piney. Okay.
He was in the Merchant Marines.
Merchant Marines.
Yeah.
Okay.
This was Gassy.
Okay, tell the story about Gassy.
How he got shot in the rear end.
Yeah.
Trying to get a gun off a German officer who was laying there.
And he got the gun, didn't he?
He got the gun.
And we still have it.
Yeah.
And then who's this?
That's Elmer.
Elmer?
Keith, yeah.
And he was a professional baseball player.
Right.
For the Pirates.
If he was living today, he'd be a millionaire. Cause
Yeah.
he used to pitch one whole game, then he'd pitch double headers sometime.
And who's this?
That's Swacker, Vitas, they call him.
Because they were all Lithuanians, right?
Yeah.
And then what was he in? What branch of the military? Air Corps. He was so he flew planes?
No, he was just I don't know what he did.
So 5 brothers, all of them were in World War II.
Yeah.
Pretty cool. All right, babe, let's get one more shot of the hat. The USS Steinacre Association gave Babe this hat, and he still wears it a lot. We see him with it all the time.
Yeah.
And now, anything else you want to say about the USS Steinacre or the Navy when you were in it that you think people should know or that Steinacre should know? They're really into history. They like to trace the history of their ship. Even, I know you don't think it was that big of a deal, but they really enjoy it. So anything else you think they should know?
Yeah, not really.
Not really, okay.
You know what? I think the Steinacre was named after a Marine that was killed in Guadalcanal.
Yeah, we've heard something like that. Actually, last year at the reunion, his nephew was there.
Yeah.
He came and did a little speech. It was pretty nice to.
Was it?
Yeah, so he was there.
Yeah.
Now, anything else about the Steinacre, the ship? Because that's the big thing there. That's what they were all. They all were on that ship, so that's the common link.
Yeah.
Anything else about it you can remember about the ship itself?
Not really.
Not really. It was big and it was rocking back and forth.
Yeah. Well, I met my brother in New York. He was in the Merchant Marines, and his ship came into New York, and we were in New York, docked in New York. I forget how long, but he come over there. He come over to the Steinacre to meet me, and he was in the Merchant Marine, and the Merchant Marine was like business people. They owned these ships that they leased out to the government, and he got paid, and he went to eat one time, and he says, isn't food like he gets on his ship?
Yeah, wasn't as good.
It wasn't as good because they had the best food going because these guys were making money off the government releasing these ships, the Merchant Marine guys.
Yeah.
They treated them good.
Pretty good.
Yeah.
All right. Well, anything else you want to say to all your shipmates on the Steinacre? Give them a send off, man.
You know, I still can remember one guy named two guys, Joe Vanetz and Joe Turner.
Joe Vanetz and Joe Turner.
Yeah, Joe Vanetz was a typical Brooklyn guy. He had that Brooklyn accent, and Joe Turner was Southern. He lived in Virginia. They're probably both dead by now.
Yeah, well, you never know.
Yeah.
You never know. Who knows? But, well, babe, if you would have been there, you'd have been the oldest one there. You'd have been a celebrity. All right, so, okay, well, I guess, unless you have anything else to say, that's all we're going to do. That's about it?
Yeah, and I just wondered, the Steinacre that sold to the Mexicans?
That's true. We've heard that. They sold it off to the Mexicans. Now it's down there somewhere.
Yeah.
So.
Steinacre.
That's right. All right. Well, that's all we're going to do, and I'm going to let Babe get back to Easter brunch.
Okay.
All right.